Now we move over to the Indo-Pacific, where in an interview, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that Washington and Beijing should maintain relations and possibly look for areas of cooperation. Rubio said the United States and China were the two most powerful countries in the world and therefore needed to be able to talk and engage with each other. He added that while some irritants in the relationship were unavoidable, the US needed to stand its ground on issues of disagreement. Rubio also criticized the lack of market access in China, saying American markets were open to Chinese companies, but the Chinese market remained closed for years. We're now joined by Andrew K.P. Leung, who's a China strategist. He joins us live from London. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us as always. Andrew, how would you analyse these statements from the US Secretary of State? Is it really as unfair as he puts it? He says that the United States is open to dialogue. However, the US markets remain, the Chinese markets remain closed to US companies. Do you think that's true?
Well, there are a number of dimensions involved in this relationship, which is now entering into uncharted waters, not seen in many decades. The first dynamic is, of course, China is now developing so fast, growing so fast. Not only its economy, which is, of course, now the world's second largest, and is advancing in technology, in its connectivity, and dominating in supply chains. All these are regarded as an existential threat to American-dominated world order, not only in terms of trade, investments, but also geopolitical influence. The second dynamic, of course, is a bit of gross misunderstanding or a kind of twisted rhetoric that somehow China's growth and China's development is a camouflage for China to export its ideology to the rest of the world and to replace American-led liberal world order based on democracy, human rights, and all that. And that could be seen as an existential threat to the Western world, as it were. However, this, as I said, is a twisted rhetoric because China, even growing very strongly, has no intention or no capability, in fact, to replace Americans' leadership in many ways. Least of all, of course, Americans' overarching military bases around the world. There's no way that Beijing want to replicate that, but that doesn't mean that China's influence is not growing. But also, it doesn't mean that China's growing influence would necessarily mean that China wants to rule the world. So I think that this is a misunderstanding, gross misunderstanding, not only in the United States but in the Western world. And this misunderstanding continues to poison the relationship between both countries. Now, the third dynamic.
Andrew, can I just ask you something quickly? Who do you think needs each other more in the trade relationship between China and the United States?
Yes, I was about to come to that. Because there is a huge imbalance there in the sense that China is now the world's largest manufacturer and exporter and trader. And China produces most of the world's products, almost its entirety, even though products not made in China. China is embedded in many ways in terms of raw earth, components, and also logistics. But that is, China is also very, very competitive, particularly in the electric vehicles, because it controls the batteries, production, and technology. But that's likely to destroy a lot of the key industries in the United States and also in the Western world. So unless China rebalances this trade relationship by perhaps outsourcing or relocating some of the supply production in the host countries, bringing jobs as well as technologies as needed to grow, to continue to support the industries in the Western world, then the relationship is unlikely to improve anytime soon. But I think that this is beginning to happen. For example, in London, nearly half of the so-called traditional black cabs in London, the electric version is now produced by a China-owned company in Coventry. So I think that this model can be replicated, but I think that it depends not only on one thing, electric vehicles. It is only one of the pillars that will sustain a long-term relationship between China and the Western world.
Yes, Andrew KP Leung, thank you very much for joining us on the programme. We now move over to Africa, where Cameroon's opposition